Welcome to This is Scotland with the Scots Magazine. This is the Q&A session with me, Ali Heather.
And I'm Coinneach MacLeod, the Hebridean Baker. We've had literally hundreds of questions. Can you believe it already?
Oh, it's brilliant.
So we've selected a few, but please keep the questions coming in because some of them have already been fantastic. And it's making me learn. I'm having to deep dive into some things that maybe I didn't know so much about.
Yeah.
But I've got some questions for you. I think you've got some questions for me.
Exactly.
The first one comes from Isabel Campbell up in Tain.
Yes. No pain, no tain.
She wrote, I was wearing a Paisley pattern scarf today, and it got me thinking, is Paisley pattern actually from Paisley?
This is like, so
I love this.
Love the question. And also it's something that I've been asked a few times. Like when I point out to folk the story of like Paisley pattern, they're like, oh, I thought it was just like Paisley was just a word. I didn't realize it was from somewhere. It's kind of a timing thing. So there's this obsession with the Occidental, with the East. In the early 1800s, Scottish and British explorers, colonisers were going into areas of what is now India and that sort of area. And there was this fascination with the culture and artefacts that were coming back. And a big part of it, if you think about the Paisley, almost like the sort of kidney bean looking thing, that shape was really a very common motif throughout arts and creativity in the area that is now sort of India. And that was brought back to Paisley and jazzed right up. So it was very common. You can see original Paisley pattern designs, and actually you can see them in the V&A in Dundee. They've got the original Paisley pattern, but from India. And then you saw what Paisley is able to do, because Paisley had the modern looms, the industrialized looms. They had much more kind of bright, jazzy colors. They could do far more complex designs. And so they basically took that Indian style and made it technicolor, vibrant, incredibly intricate. Like the lining of most suits will have Paisley. Big jazzy ties. It's such a eye-catching pattern. And then they sold it back to India. And it was a bit of a disaster for India, like because we had these industrialized looms and could produce such amount of cloth at such a cheap price, we undercut makers there and caused an absolute a decline of the industry, which only Mahatma Gandhi rallied around and rebelled against. And so the Indian flag has a little spinning wheel on it because Gandhi was saying we need to get back to making things ourselves.
Wow.
And so Paisley pattern is that area of interaction where these factories in Paisley started, I'd say, mimicking and innovating on these indigenous Indian designs, making these totally global fabrics, which then had this really negative impact on the manufacturing in India for a long time. But now, of course, you get Indian-made tops that have Paisley pattern on them. So there's a whole story there. But to answer your question, up in Tain, Isabel, it is basically Paisley pattern is from Paisley, but there's a whole global story there.
I love it. And actually Paisley as well has a connection back to a fabric woven up in the Hebrides as well.
A Hebridean connection.
Always a Hebridean.
Who would have seen it coming?
Always a Hebridean connection. Lady Dunmore, who is kind of well known for maybe starting this particular industry or launching this industry up in the Hebrides. But there was two ladies in Harris, Marion and Christina MacLeod. She sent them down to Paisley because she was interested in this kind of woven fabric that was starting to become a thing in the Hebrides. So they went down, exactly what you said there. Paisley was absolutely the forefront of these kind of machined patterns. Marion and Christina came back to Harris, and that is where Harris tweed came from.
That's brilliant.
Isn't that fantastic? So Paisley, thank you. If it wasn't for you, maybe Harris tweed industry wouldn't be what it is today. 1864, the first piece of official Harris tweed cloth was sold by what they were called the Paisley sisters up on the islands, Marion and Christina MacLeod. So we've got Paisley to thank for many things, but certainly those.
Can I ask, have you been to Paisley much?
I've sang at the Royal National Mod in Paisley. That's where I know most of my towns around Scotland for doing.
Well, actually, have you been? Did you go to the latest mod there?
Yes.
They reopened the town hall with the mod.
Yes, I've sang there, yeah.
Phenomenal. But
Isn't it just?
But I would say for anyone who's based in Scotland or thinking about a trip or something, Paisley's class.
Paisley's class. The Paisley Book Festival as well.
Brilliant.
Been there a couple of times. Great festival.
But Paisley Abbey is from the 1150s. It's like an amazing piece of architecture. It's as stunning as Glasgow Cathedral, but you get it to your cell, basically. There's nobody there. So if you're faced Scotland and want an interesting day trip, I would actually say Paisley.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. Well, let's hope that Isabel up in Tane pops down
Exactly.
to see where her scarf was originated from as well.
Exactly.
So good question, Isabel.
Exactly. So I've got a question for you. So Daniel Sinclair asks, is shortbread Scottish?
Is shortbread Scottish? I think to everybody in the world, they assume that shortbread is Scottish, which I totally love. I love the fact that there are certain things that are perceived to be so Scottish. And is it? I'm not sure. I think certainly if you look at parts of the world, they've all got their sort of version of the same biscuit or shortbread that they make.
In what sense is it short?
It's the snap. It's the shortness of the snap that really makes it the shortbread. But I would say from a Scottish perspective, maybe 12th centuries when you start to read about this thing that people were eating, but in those days much less sugar about, obviously, so it wasn't that particularly sweet. It was still a treat, but not seen as a sweet treat. But I think it is most synonymous with Mary Queen of Scots. She was the one that really brought shortbread to the public domain in Scotland.
God bless you, Mary.
Absolutely. And this is when maybe you see the difference between cuisine from across the border in England, which was maybe more Roman in influence. And originally, Scottish cuisine very much was, insular in a good way. We kept the heritage of our produce pretty close to us. But then we were so influenced by France, by the Old Alliance. And obviously Mary being in France, she brought a lot of French chefs over with her to Scotland. It was at a time where then sugar was more, available. And of course, the French influence have put more butter in things as well. So that's why this kind of buttery, sweet shortbread came about. She was particularly a fan of the petticoat tail shortbread. Right? Yes. So you get it, obviously, the different shapes and sizes. And so the petticoat tail was her particular favourite in that way, as opposed to the round or the fingers. But sugar was still a luxury. It was still seen as quite an expensive thing. So it was a treat to get shortbread. But talking of that kind of influence as well, one of my heroes, I would say, is a lady, F. Marion McNeill, or Florence Marion McNeill. She wrote maybe not the first Scottish cookbook, but one of the most famous ones. 1929, she wrote a book called The Scots Kitchen. And she was born in Orkney. Her father was a Free Church of Scotland minister from Argyll. But she looked, even in 1929, she was concerned about the, maybe homogenization of the food culture in Scotland. The influence, particularly from England, in our food culture. So she went around the country, not only writing down the recipes, but also the stories that went along with these amazing recipes.
Oh, wow.
And some of the names, in her book, she's got a Scots flummery, she's got a bod brie, she's got a cabby claw, Rob Roy's pleasure. She's got these amazingly named recipes. One of my favourite is a shortbread recipe. It's called a bride's bon. Bride's bon is a Shetland shortbread, and a bit like Mary Queen of Scots, they flavoured their shortbread with caraway seeds, which she really liked in her shortbread as well. So a bride's bon, it's made by the mother of the bride on the day of her daughter's wedding. And as she arrives back into the family home after the wedding, the mother will walk up to her with this petticoat tail of shortbread, and you think, isn't that nice? She's going to gift her daughter and new husband some shortbread. No, she grabs it and she smashes it over her daughter's head. And it's very good luck for the guests to catch a piece of the shortbread before it hits the floor. And you put it under your pillow, and it's supposed to give you sweet dreams and dream of your future husband or wife that night.
Can you imagine how violent the modern bride would be after spending hunters on the makeup and the hair and the wedding photographs? Then your mother's just
Smashes it, exactly. But it's a great story. And I think to myself, is it an island thing? Because what's the thing in the cities where they would throw, was it the groom that would throw the coins?
The porut, yeah. The scrammy, the scramble, the porut.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
So I used to do that. We used to chase coins into the heavy traffic going through New Biggin to go outside the Kirk, yeah.
Obviously, we're a bit too cheap to be throwing coins away, but we thought maybe smashing shortbread's our version of that.
I should just say for our international listeners, so the scrammy, scramble, porut, it was on the Sunday when the marriage is taking place, the groom would come out as you're exiting the Kirk, and they just throw fistfuls of coins out, and it was for the wee local bairns to run around grabbing the coins, and it was that thing of like bringing abundance into the home, and that idea of the community is all that is together. And I mind once it was pound coins when I was wee. You're talking about, he must have thrown away £18.
Wow.
Incredible. New Biggin had never seen the like.
Well, we wouldn't do that in the island. So a wee bit of shortbread is fine. So I do love the fact that, you arrive at duty free and in Scotland, at Edinburgh, Glasgow, and there's shortbread everywhere. And it's something we make really, really well. So I think we should celebrate the fact that even though there is versions of this in every part of the world, that people aspire to Scottish shortbread as well.
A couple of quick things on that. So first of all, we have listeners all over Scotland in every region. If you have any shortbread traditions, we'd love to hear them. Like, that'd be great crack. Or just interest in food traditions, would love to hear that. Just get in touch. But also that French influence, because like Mary Queen of Scots, an amazing influential woman, but only one person, and her court wasn't a massive, and in their days it's not like they had the media to communicate. So I've always been amazed the cultural stamp that court and that queen was able to make in quite a short time in Scotland. Like, we have words embedded in modern Scottish English and in the Scots language, potentially in Gaelic as well, fae that time of French influence. Like the Scots word for a crow is a corby, and you have loads of like Corby Hills and Corby Drives and that kind of thing around Scotland and place names, and that's from the French le corbeau. And you have things like you get your pie at the football in an assiette. Like, that's the name of the wee pie tin, an assiette. And that's from the French for a plate, l'assiette.
Love that.
And the one that I think is
That's changed my trips to the football completely. I feel so posh.
Very sophisticated. But also the one that's most common and sounds so Scottish is caddy. So your caddy at the golf, who carries your bags about, it comes from cadet, like the boy. So the le cadet was like the youngest in French, or the boy, and so the caddy is just the wee boy that carries about your clubs. Wow. So I think there's that stamp of Frenchness put on Scottish culture that we have entirely indigenized and is now part of who we are. I think that's great.
Love it.
Can I ask you another one?
Sure.
If you don't mind. So Andy Doig from Montrose. Hello to Montrose. My mammy stays there. Lovely tune. He is planning his first trip to the Hebrides, presumably because of your relentless campaign to promote the place. So poor old Doig's finally on his way.
Amazing.
And he's just got in touch saying, why are Harris and Lewis not separate islands? He's just discovered. Because it's all one big thing.
Was he trying to get the ferry from Lewis to Harris?
Exactly. He's trying to figure out the CalMac website to figure out how you get from Harris to Lewis. And it's like, hold on, this is just one place. So what's the crack? Harris and Lewis, maybe the most famous of the Hebridean Islands. One big place.
Yeah. Well, firstly, what was his name?
Andy.
I would love to have Andy been on the CalMac website trying to figure it out. So if I get the ferry from Stornoway to Ullapool, drive round to Uig and Skye, and then get the ferry to Tarbert, is that the way I do it?
Exactly.
No, there's a much easier way. Yes, Lewis and Harris physically is the same island, and it's actually, apart from, I suppose, the island of Britain itself, it's the largest island in the British Isles. So in size, we are the biggest and most beautiful, of course, of the island. But yes,
he's already going. You don't have to influence him anymore. He's going. It's fine.
But Lewis and Harris are physically the same island.
Mm-hmm.
And where's the divide, or what's the divide? Well, some people say there's a kind of mountain range or range of hills from Loch Seaford that kind of split the islands. And you can get a photo at the sign saying, "Welcome to the Isle of Lewis," and then run across the road and get a photo of the "Welcome to the Isle of Harris." So do definitely take those islands. But actually, up until 1975, in the old, the kind of split of councils or regions or counties of Scotland, whatever they, excuse the fact, I can't remember the exact term, but up until 1975, Lewis belonged to the county of Ross and Cromarty, and Harris belonged to the county of Inverness-shire. So we weren't even in the same county.
And not even on speaking terms.
Not even on speaking terms. So isn't that fascinating that even they divided us in those ways? But yes, we are the same. Obviously, the clan system was a big part of the split as well. The lands of Clan MacLeod of Harris and Clan MacLeod of Lewis were separate lands for these clans. But I was trying to put it into kind of like global context of other islands around the world that had two countries or more in them. Because one thing that is a bit of a puzzle for people is there's actually not a collective word for Lewis and Harris. There's not a word for the island.
Right. Because
Which is
on this
called Lewis
island
and
we have
Harris.
like Scotland, Wales, England, all have their own names.
Yeah.
But we can call it Great Britain.
We have the island name. And when I thought about it, the island of Hispaniola has the countries of Haiti and Dominican Republic. You've got Borneo, that has Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei on it. But Lewis and Harris does not have, the island doesn't have a name.
Interesting.
So I find that really, really intriguing.
Andy and other listeners, tell us, what should we call it? What is there? Do you have a theory? Do you have a name you'd like to give it?
I don't know, actually. I'm intrigued. Let's come back to that in a future podcast.
The premier Hebridean island.
Yeah.
I went out there recently, and it is so stunning, Andy. You'll have a class time. But there wasn't a beef between Lewis and Harris, but certainly there's a bit of needle back and forth, a bit of joke.
Well, I mean, Lewis people don't have a beef because we obviously think we're the best at everything on the islands. But there's some things I wonder, again, love to hear from our viewers and listeners, who does it best, So beaches, for example, people will think of maybe Harris for the beaches of Luscantire, Horrigabost, Coinneach, but we have amazing beaches on Lewis as well. If I think of the beaches at Arderoil at Uig, where the Lewis chessmen were found, or Valtos, maybe I could say technically my favourite beach is on another island on Great Bernera, the beach of Bosta. So I think we're relatively even on beaches. History or historical sites, I think we do pretty well in Lewis. I mean, Rodal Church, of course, iconic location down in Harris, but we do have the Coinneach stones.
They're okay.
They're not bad.
They're fine.
They're not bad on Lewis. And then I was thinking of our maybe cultural exports. What do people think of when they think of the islands? And of course, people think of Harris Tweed when they hear of the island of Harris, even though it's made on both the islands. Again, they take all the credit for that. But surely Stornoway Black Pudding must be the biggest and best export ever from the Hebrides.
From any island.
From anywhere in the world.
Stornoway Black Pudding is absolutely gorgeous, to be fair. Okay, I accept it. Andy, you've got a great list of beaches to explore. Do get back in touch. Let us know how the trip goes. Let us know what you make of it. And if you have the thoughts of what a name for the entire island could be, we can pitch it to the big man himself when you get back for your holidays.
Well, so we've heard from the amazingly named Annie Dovchek in Glasgow, and I really hope that Annie is the daughter or granddaughter of Darius Dovchek, the old Celtic left back.
Sure.
Let's see if she is. We all hope that. But she had an amazing question. She wrote, why do England have lakes and Scotland have lochs?
Now, so it's a great question, and thank you for it. We do have lakes.
Do we?
We have a few. We've got a handful of lakes.
You've burst my biggest bubble ever. I didn't. Do you really?
Yeah. So there's a famous one, right? There's a famous one called the Lake of Menteith.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, which is kind of sort of Aberfoyle direction, like kind of central Scotland. Beautiful part of the world. It's a wee boaty lake, so you can get out and like sort of row your boat and things. But it's one of the unintentional misnames when they're writing down the maps. So I think the cartographer was for Germany or England. I can't mind exactly. But the Ordnance Survey, they went around measuring all the hills and recording all the landscapes from the 1700s onwards. And they also, to get the place names, they would just ask all the locals. And they go up to you and say, what do you call this river? What do you call this place? And the Ordnance Survey place name book, if you fancy a nerdy evening in, it'll give you all the varieties of locally sourced names. So they'll ask 10 people, all the 10 names will be in there. And this one, the Lake of Menteith, was a misunderstanding of the Scots word lake. So in Murray, just north of Elgin, you hear the Lake of Murray. And that's the Scots for low. It means the low-lying land and has the connotations of boggy, waterlogged marshland. The Lake of Murray now is farmland. It's all been drained. But the Lake of Menteith was the Lake of Menteith. It was a boggy, swampy morass, which partly got drained and partly got formalised into a set lake. So it's just a misunderstanding. A guy heard lake and he's like, they probably mean lake. I'll put down lake.
Amazing.
Exactly.
So we can still officially say that we don't really have lakes in Scotland.
No, we do. We've been betrayed. We've been betrayed. Modern reservoirs. There are modern reservoirs for like drinking water supplies and things that have somehow been called lakes, which is a great national betrayal. I will be advocating strongly for them to give in loch names. But I would say England has more than just lakes. It's one of my favourite pub quiz facts to Fox and English Pal. How many lakes in the Lake District? Only one. Because they're all meres. Windermere, all that kind of thing. Mere is the word for lake in the Northern English dialects. So that's lake is actually just purely a Southern English word that's become standardised. And we have to resist that. And I think that the reason we have these Gaelic names in the landscape, like when language comes into a place, you need to name things. And the Gaelic was the language that named so much of Scotland. So descriptive. And it's that thing of Gaelic was spoken very widely when we were naming these things. And that culture has never been entirely kind of overwritten by colonising names. So you see like Glen, Loch, maybe Burn, Strath, Ben. These are all names that exist in all of Scotland's languages, in Scots, Gaelic and English, for the landscape.
It's interesting. We have our new, I was going to say wee puppy, but Sula, the Scottish deerhound, is the biggest wee puppy in the world. And there's a place over in Argyll near Dalmally, Stronmillichan, Stron na Mílchu. And that is the point or the nose of the high dog. The deerhound was a dog that was only connected to people of a certain status. So that was weird. Isn't that amazing? You think, I'm from Stronmillichan, but just in that word, it is so descriptive.
The place of the big dogs.
Yeah, the big dogs.
I think it's great.
It's amazing.
And I love that Gaelic rootedness in the landscape. And you also, that whole landscape place names, not just to go off lochs for a second, the Norse impact on Scotland. You see how the Norse interacted with Scotland based on what they got to name. So in some places, they just got to name things they could see. So Goatfell in Arran has a Norse name for the hill because the Norse people going up and down were able to navigate by it, so it really mattered to them from a distance. But they didn't go and name farms and things because they didn't become the dominant settlers. Whereas in Shetland and Orkney, the farm names have Norse names because they became actual settlers.
Well, I mean, I think I've got this right. 99 of the 113 villages in Lewis and Harris have Norse names.
Yeah, there you go.
But one of my favourite, and there's so many around Scotland, Tarbert. A Tarbert is when there's a wee piece of land that is between a loch and a piece of sea or two lochs, where the Vikings could carry their boats across to the next piece of water.
Exactly.
And that's a Tarbert or Tarbet, etc.
Exactly.
Which I totally love. What's do you have a particular favourite loch you'd like to visit in Scotland?
I do. I have one cheeky Tarbert fact for you, though.
Oh, go on.
So most most of the tarbots are exactly as you say, places you can easily drag the boat across.
Yeah.
But that was in the 1200s. We were having this war with Norway about who got to control the inner Hebridean, the inner Firth Islands, so Bute and things like that. And so the King of Scotland and the King of Norway came to the agreement that Scotland owns the mainland, so everything's one big lump, and you get all the islands, right? That's your sphere of influence. But the King of Norway really wanted the entire peninsula. And so his interpretation of what is an island is anything that you can circumnavigate by boat. And so they targeted all these places to say, we can circumnavigate it by boat, therefore it's an island. So the entire peninsula is this big, long, arable, wealthy area, and they dragged their boat just across the top and said, that's an island, that's Norwegian. So a lot of the targets were these like dodgy land claims by the King of Norway during this kind of treaty negotiation.
I love that. Yeah, well, it was a Treaty of Perth.
Yeah.
That's at 1266, that when the Outer Islands and the Outer Hebrides became part of Scotland.
Yeah.
I love the story that I think they paid 4,000 marks for, Scotland paid Norway 4,000 marks for the Hebrides, which I think is about £1.25 these days. So they got a bargain, a rip-off. But still to this day, and I will check with the First Minister if he's paid this year, but Scotland still need to pay Norway £100 a year to keep the Hebrides as part of Scotland.
Yeah.
Or I'll be raising the the red and blue and white flag of Norway above Lewis. So I love that we're still connected even now to this. But you were going to say your favourite loch?
So like my favourite loch, and this is one that I'd really encourage people to go to. So it's in rural Angus. It's up in Glen Clova, and it's called Loch Brandy.
Brandy,
Loch Brandy. So it's well known within Angus, but not much beyond that. And the reason I'd suggest you go there is it is the perfect wee hill walk. If you've got a dog, if you're out with your kids or something. So basically you drive into this beautiful glen, like Glen Clova. There's a perfect wee hotel, like proper rural pub, open fires, brilliant cuisine. A lot of the venison and things from the estate are sold there. Beautiful. And you can walk up to Loch Brandy. It's a sort of 40-minute walk through the heather. Great views over the glen, and then it's sat in this high corrie with this big dramatic scoop out of the rock, and the loch sits there. On a warm day, get up there, you can have a swim. It warms up to a decent temperature, really good to get in for a duke. And if you're feeling a bit more adventurous, you can go up and round the back of the corrie and down the loch. So it's very adaptable for a day out. There's good parking down below. You can walk at the bottom of the glen. You can get up to Loch Brandy for a duke, and if you're feeling a bit more adventurous, get up and round it, and it will really impress you.
Wow.
Favourite loch?
Amazing. Favourite loch, maybe a wee bit more niche, is there is a loch called Lochonari on the Coinneach. I'm sure you know it well. It's on the Isle of Lewis, just behind my village of Cremore.
I know it so well, I can almost say it.
You can almost say it. Lochonari on the Coinneach, the loch of the one night shieling. And it's a great story that I've written in my Hebridean Baker cookbooks. I know I like to write a few stories in those as well. And it's a great story. I won't spoil the whole thing, but it's the story of the Ech Ushka, the water horse, which is one of our probably most famous mythological beasts that we have in the particularly on Lewis. And, as a kid growing up, we were told, don't go near that loch or watch that hill because that's the Chenabirach goes there. All these amazing stories to keep you from wandering about too far from the village. I love a loch with a story.
That's a belter.
Lochonari on the Coinneach is a fantastic one.
I've loved answering these questions.
Great questions, everybody.
So what we try to do, this is Scotland, is we're trying to explore Scotland, obviously from our perspectives, but we need your conversations. If you're living in Scotland, if you've explored this place, if you've holidayed here, if you look at it online and want to visit, all of us work together to decide what this is Scotland is all about. So we need to hear from you. We're desperate to hear your stories, and for these podcasts, your questions. Yeah, for sure. So we'll be back next episode with our This is Scotland podcast, where we're chatting about a few. I can't wait. There's a few topics I cannot wait to talk about. But the next one after that, we'll be back on the Q&A podcast. I feel it's a shorter podcast. I think let's call it the Half Pint. The Q&A podcast is the Half Pint podcast. No sponsored beers yet, but if you're out there, please give us a shout. But can't wait to see you soon. I think that was great. This is Scotland. Great crack, and thanks so much for joining us. We'll speak to you again soon.